Shocking accusation exposed. District manager wrongfully fired. 8.7 hours victory inspires change. Sarah Thompson had spent the better part of a decade clawing her way up the corporate ladder. As a district manager for a prestigious retail chain, she held her head high, proud of the modest beginnings that had fueled her relentless drive. But then came the call, the one that shattered her reality. Your employment has been terminated, effective immediately. The voice on the other end was cold and devoid of empathy. The word mismanagement echoed relentlessly in her mind, twisting the pride she carried into a gnawing despair. Could this really be happening? Stumbling through the bustling streets of St. Louis, every face around her seemed to reflect a life of shiny success, while she felt shrouded in the shadow of disgrace. The condescending whispers and subtle glances from colleagues replayed relentlessly in her mind. Were they judging? Perhaps pitying? Striking the balance between the honesty of her roots and the deceit of the corporate world was becoming an impossible feat. Sarah hesitated, staring at the store window displays showcasing expensive clothes she had once promoted. Now she felt like a distant relic of the very success she once embodied. With nowhere else to turn, she dialed her former mentor, Grace Lindner. "Sarah?" Grace said, her voice soft but steady. Together they dissected Sarah's termination notice, uncovering buried truths about the office culture that had spiraled out of control, a culture that thrived on backstabbing and falsehoods. The revelation that Sarah's downfall originated from dark corners of corporate politics only fueled her anguish. What if her dedication and integrity had been weaponized against her? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days bled into one another as Sarah buried herself in research, frantically uncovering details as if they were pieces of a broken mirror reflecting her dreams. Each document she pored over revealed layers of deceit that led her to a clandestine stash of family assets left behind by her late grandmother. The thought ignited hope and indignation. Was her inheritance the key to dismantling the malicious plans of those who sought her downfall? Nights turned into torments filled with sleepless moments where shadows of doubt crept in. What if she failed? The fear of excruciating embarrassment clawed at her, almost suffocating. But the fire within her burned brighter. She felt a sudden need to fight, not just for herself, but for all who had suffered in silence, their voices muffled under the corporate machinery she had once served. The anxiety tightened around her, relentless as each day only deepened her resolve and raised the stakes higher. Standing before the judge on the pivotal day of her hearing, the trembling silence magnified her heart rate to a suffocating crescendo. The weight of every lie and injustice bore down on her. Would anyone truly believe in her fight for justice? Her mind raced with memories of her family, her small-town upbringing saturated in values of hard work and honesty. But vulnerable thoughts surfaced amidst the chaos. What if she was simply a pawn in a game much larger than herself? As she stood there, a strong but wavering voice resonated inside her. Could she reclaim her dignity? Or would the very platform she once championed crush her spirit? Just then, as the judge began to speak, a chilling revelation threatened to unravel everything she had fought for, leaving Sarah grappling with uncertainty like never before. What fate awaited her on the edge of this knife? As the judge's voice echoed through the courtroom, clarity danced just out of reach for Sarah. She strained to focus on the proceedings, but the raw fear of potential defeat clawed at her insides. Each word felt like a weight on her chest, pressing down as she prepared for what could seal her fate. This was not merely about vindication, it was about reclaiming her life, her self-worth, and the legacy of integrity she longed to uphold. The judge's opening statement reverberated in her ears. Today, we will address the claims of wrongful termination brought forth by Ms. Sarah Thompson. His expression was inscrutable, but Sarah felt a tide of anticipation rise and crash around her. This was the moment she had to summon every ounce of strength she possessed. In the crowd sat former colleagues, familiar faces twisted by judgments of varying shades. Were they there to witness her fall, or might they harbor a flicker of sympathy? Even now, a part of her craved their validation. She clenched her fists, reminding herself that their opinions no longer defined her trajectory. It was her story from here on out. As lawyers exchanged barbs, she reflected on the skills nurtured through ruthless corporate training. Negotiation, strategy, persuasion. These were not mere traits, they were her armor. In that charged atmosphere, Sarah felt the flickers of ambition begin to ignite once more. Would this trial become a fiery rebirth rather than an agonizing end? Suddenly, the door creaked open, and a figure emerged. Grace Lindner, her mentor, her beacon of guidance. The comfort of familiarity washed over Sarah. Grace's presence was a reminder that she did not fight alone. She could draw upon the wealth of wisdom shared in countless mentoring sessions. Would this be the moment where the lessons learned coalesced into a weapon against the onslaught of lies? Taking a deep breath, Sarah recalled the moment spent poring over her grandmother's old documents. The lessons of resilience hidden like gems among mundane letters sparked new ideas. What if the old family assets her grandmother had tucked away weren't just financial security, but the foundation for something greater? A business model built on integrity, driven by compassion. As the proceedings unfolded, her mind raced toward possibilities. What if she repositioned her narrative not just as a victim of corporate sabotage, but as a pioneer for change within the very industry that sought to crush her? The exhilarating rush of self-realization coursed through her veins, distracting her momentarily from the chaos surrounding her. Yet the stakes loomed. The words and accusations hurled by the opposing counsel grew sharper, clearer, like daggers aimed straight at her heart. They painted her not as a misunderstood employee, but as an inept manager who had failed to deliver results, an image she fought vehemently to dispel. How could they not see the truth beneath their lies? Balling her fists tighter around the resolve brewing within, Sarah understood that she had to counter this with more than just self-defense. This wouldn't merely be about saving herself, it would be about redefining success on her own terms. With each breath, she envisioned her future, a sanctuary built on the residual strength of a lifetime of hard-earned values, countering the wreckage of betrayal. As the judge turned to her, signaling it was time for her statement, Sarah felt an electric pulse igniting her nerves. Standing tall, she faced the room, her voice steady, yet charged with an undercurrent of defiance she hoped would resonate beyond these walls. She was on the precipice of something enormous, but would she have the clarity to push forward? The moment for genuine confrontation was here, but could it simultaneously reshape her identity? Just as she began to speak, a sudden noise from the back of the courtroom stole her focus. A figure stood up, one Sarah least expected to see, and the air thickened with tension. What awaited her now could change everything. The figure from the back of the courtroom stepped into the light, and Sarah's heart sank. It was Liam, her former colleague, and now the very face of the accusations that shadowed her. His presence felt like a thunderclap, reverberating through the courtroom's charged atmosphere. The chatter simmered down, all eyes locked on the unexpected spectacle. Why was he here now, at this pivotal moment? "Your Honor," Liam began, his voice a blend of practiced confidence and rehearsed disdain. "I have new evidence that will cast serious doubts on Ms. Thompson's claims." He pulled a sheaf of papers from his briefcase, sending a ripple of tension through the courtroom. Sarah felt each word vibrate through her chest, electrifying her determination and fear. But a part of her recognized this as more than just intimidation. It was an effort to control the narrative. As his voice droned on, she felt herself slipping further from despair into a fierce resolve. This was not the end. It was merely an extension of the battle. With each accusation tossed her way, she had a choice: to shrink beneath the weight of defensiveness, or to stand, confront, and reclaim the narrative. Liam's words painted her as reckless and dismissive of team dynamics, undermining her reputation with sweeping generalizations. Despite the heat of the moment, Sarah leaned into her memories of Grace's teachings, the significance of preparation, the power of composure, and the ability to flip the script on the unsuspecting opponent. "Your Honor?" Sarah interjected, her voice breaking through the haze of Liam's claims. "Allow me to clarify." She steeled herself, visualizing the strength she'd built through years of hard work, mentorship, and moments of growth. What Mr. Baker fails to mention is not just the complexity of the team dynamics, but also the strategies I implemented that drew support from various departments. A murmur rippled through the gallery. She felt the eyes of her peers shift as she commanded attention. Something fundamental shifted within her. No longer merely a victim, Sarah was determined to be an architect of her own narrative. "I established a culture of transparency and collaboration," she continued, her tone firm and unwavering. "The very accusations aimed at my professional integrity reflect a deeper issue within the company's structure. If anyone should be standing here today, it's the overseers who allowed a toxic environment to flourish." With each word, she drew deeper on her internal well of endurance. While Liam painted her with broad strokes, it was her responsibility to sketch in the details, her responsibilities, her contributions, and her vision for a more inclusive and ethically sound workplace. As she spoke, the weight of the courtroom seemed to lift. She was not merely defending herself, she was advocating for a vision of integrity, one that she could model for others, a reflection of what she stood for. The path ahead became clearer as she envisioned the principles that would guide her should she emerge victorious. Firing through her fast-evolving strategy, Sarah could sense the shift. She would not only combat a wrongful termination, she would signal a cultural evolution. But would her expanding vision be enough to counteract the manipulation she faced? As Liam prepared to respond, shadowed doubts lingered in the back of her mind. Could she maintain this trajectory under scrutiny? Would her former allies comprehend her new direction? Just as the judge motioned for Liam to continue, Sarah felt renewed urgency. This was not the end. The real test had yet to unfold. How much further would she have to push to redefine her story? And could the weight of the courtroom witness her transformation? The grip on her future tightened with each moment, leaving her poised to battle not just for herself, but for the very ideals that had always driven her. As the courtroom held its breath, Sarah could feel the palpable tension rising. Each second that ticked by stretched her nerves thin, but alongside it brewed a new kind of energy, a blend of anxiety and defiance that coursed through her veins. She wasn't merely waiting for Liam to speak, she was readying herself to seize control once more. "Ms. Thompson's claims are laced with fabrication," Liam cut in smoothly, feigning calmness that radiated deeper insecurities. "It's essential to understand the context in which these events occurred, and I have the documentation to back that." His confident dismissal reminded Sarah of every time she had felt belittled in their past dealings. Memories crashed over her. Meetings where her ideas were overlooked, contributions overshadowed by his charisma and authority. Today, those memories stoked a fire within her. This was her moment to reshape the narrative, to expose the unhealthy dynamics that had stifled her voice for far too long. "Let's discuss that context, shall we?" Sarah couldn't stop herself from interjecting, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling around them. "Is it not ironic that the same environment Mr. Baker claims to uphold is one created by leaders like himself? A structure that permits behaviors that undermine collaboration and accountability?" Silence enveloped the courtroom. Sarah felt the gaze of judges and jurors sharpen, drawn in by her audacity. She could almost hear Grace's encouraging voice whispering in her mind, urging her to hold fast to her truth. Transparency and accountability are not merely phrases. They are actions we need to take seriously, especially within a corporate structure that has bred mistrust, she asserted, her whole being focused on the importance of her claims. "If my firing serves anything, it should be a catalyst for change. When leaders fail to foster an inclusive atmosphere, everyone suffers." There was a flicker of realization in the eyes around the room, a collective understanding beginning to dawn. She had turned the focus from herself onto the flawed system they all navigated. This refocused lens felt empowering. She was shining a light on the broader issues. It wasn't solely her career at stake, it was the culture of her workplace. With each passing moment, doubt transformed into a wellspring of purpose. She needed more than self-defense. She needed a movement, a call to arms for professionalism that would ripple beyond these walls. "Perhaps," she said deliberately, locking every eye on her. The narrative needs to shift from one of blame to one of resolve. If we are to build a better culture, we must first confront the practices that allow manipulation and toxicity to thrive. The atmosphere in the courtroom vibrated with her conviction. Caught up in the flow of her evolving thinking, Sarah realized she was not merely defending her own legacy. She was crafting a manifesto for future professionals, unjustly characterized by their peers. But just as clarity settled in her mind, panic surged. What if this new approach alienated potential allies? Would the very colleagues she was trying to help see her as a rebel or a pariah? Liam's response was swift, a clever counter meant to sidetrack her. What Ms. Thompson is neglecting to mention is that leadership isn't just about collaboration, it's also about decisiveness. This discussion indicates her inability to grasp the complexities of management. The words dripped with condescension, even venom, yet Sarah felt a rising clarity against his antagonism. Decisiveness, yes, but at what cost? She called back, the energy within her amplifying. How could he not see that leadership saturated with ego and impunity harmed everyone involved? The courtroom, ripe with tension, eagerly awaited her next move. This was not simply about winning her case or preserving her career. It was about rewriting the script of a toxic cycle that had long prevailed. Sarah could sense the turning tide, but doubt lingered. Would this pivotal move garner the support she desperately needed? As she awaited the next round, her mind raced ahead. Advancing her cause meant confronting deeper hidden truths, not just about Liam, but about the entangled narratives of success and failure in corporate America. What cracks would she uncover next, and could she rally enough support to foster real change? The stakes had never been higher, and with each heartbeat, Sarah felt the weight of destiny unfolding before her, an urgent path to not only reclaim her narrative but to champion the cause behind it. The courtroom buzzed softly, the murmur of jurors and observers echoing the mounting tension in Sarah's chest. She felt a rush, an adrenaline high propelling her forward, yet uncertainty gnawed at the edges of her confidence. Liam had shifted the narrative, cunningly recasting her as an ineffective manager, a mere hiccup in the grand scheme of corporate governance. Would her attempts to expose the systemic failures resonate, or would they backfire, painting her as the troublesome employee rather than a changemaker? Ms. Thompson, Judge Reynolds chimed in, the weight of his voice commanding silence. Please continue. His tone was firm, yet there was a flicker of interest in his eyes, a glimmer of curiosity ignited by her impassioned plea. Taking a steadying breath, Sarah zeroed in on the opportunity. Leadership implies responsibility, not just for results but for nurturing a culture where every voice matters, she began, the conviction of her words swelling within her like a rising tide. It requires listening as much as it demands decisiveness. When decisions are made in silos, without an eye toward inclusivity, we harm the very fabric of our organizations. Liam shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his facade of confidence cracking under the weight of her assertions. She noted the flicker of discontent in his expression and seized the moment, turning the focus back on him. Mr. Baker dismisses collaboration as a hindrance while thriving on ego. When such behavior is tolerated, we create an echo chamber that stifles innovation and progress. A wave of whispers rippled through the courtroom, a buzz that suggested her words were breaking through the defenses of those who had come to witness the proceedings. Sarah's heart quickened as she caught glimpses of nods, subtle affirmations from colleagues and professional peers, the very people who had once marginalized her. This growing consensus sparked something deep within her, but with rising determination came an avalanche of fear. What if they did not truly support her? What if they merely held their tongues, frightened of implicating themselves? She could imagine their doubts, the hesitations that had kept them silent for so long. Her position had shifted. She was speaking not just for herself but potentially for all of them, and the enormity of that realization sent a shiver down her spine. Let me illustrate with a case, she continued, her tone even as she battled against self-doubt. A former colleague of mine, who was let go under ambiguous circumstances not dissimilar to my own, influenced a major product launch that doubled our revenue in less than a year. Yet when it came time for performance reviews, it was a select few leaders, with their own biases, who determined that success should not be credited where it was due. They painted a picture that benefited them, masquerading behind decisiveness while stifling contributions. Sarah paused to gauge the response. The room had shifted. The story about the colleague and her assertion of truth sparked discussions among the jurors. Liam was quick to respond, leaning into his role as the perceived authority. Hypotheticals don't alter facts, Ms. Thompson, and what you are describing is an individual's failure to adapt, not a systemic failure. You deflect. That is not leadership. His words felt like a riposte meant to diminish her hard-won momentum, but Sarah was ready. No, Mr. Baker, I am not deflecting, I am amplifying. This is about how leaders, the very ones you uphold, set the tone for the conversations and culture within a company. That power should be wielded with care, not as a sword to cut down those they perceive as threats. The intensity in her voice reverberated against the courtroom walls. If the culture of retaliation thrives under the guise of decisiveness, then we are all at risk. Every prospective employee who dares to innovate, challenge, or be authentic. Transparency must drive our decisions, not subtext and personal agendas. The room held its breath awaiting Liam's rebuttal, the shift palpable. As she prepared for the next verbal sparring, a new determination coursed through her. Sarah realized this was not just a fight for her reinstatement, but a battle for integrity in an industry riddled with shadows. The stakes climbed higher as revelations surged inside her like a brewing storm. What if there was more to uncover about this toxic environment than even she realized? She glanced at the jury, her resolve solidified by the awareness of their gaze. Could they see her not merely as a victim, but as a pivotal part of a bigger movement toward authenticity and professionalism? She knew it was time to bring forth the evidence, the hidden truths buried within the corporate structure she had once been part of. And then it hit her. What if Liam had left her more in the dark than she knew? What if there were unspoken truths layered beneath the accusations she had yet to unravel? With her thoughts spiraling toward these uncharted territories, she felt a surge of urgency. This was becoming more than just her story. It was the beginning of a deeper investigation into the undercurrents of power dynamics within her industry that demanded to be brought into the light. What truths awaited her beyond this courtroom, backstage in the labyrinth of corporate power? The next revelation could turn the tide completely, and with a steely resolve, Sarah prepared to dig deep. The courtroom atmosphere had shifted, the air thick with anticipation. As Sarah stood firm, her spirit ignited by the collective energy of support around her, she felt an odd mix of resolve and fear battling within her. Though she had gained some ground against Liam's dismissive strategies, the specter of the unspoken truths loomed heavily over her. She sensed that unearthing those hidden layers could be her path to ultimate vindication. But how to execute this without losing her footing? She took a moment to center herself, focusing on the palpable tension surrounding her. She couldn't afford a misstep, for the stakes had escalated. Her voice, laced with both authority and urgency, filled the courtroom once more. Your Honor, may I provide additional insights that pinpoint specific failings in the judgment process? These failures aren't merely anecdotal, they are rooted in the fabric of our corporate policies. I present the documented reports that demonstrate how systemic biases influence decisions at every organizational tier. The judge nodded, and with a silent signal, she knew he acknowledged her intent. She deliberately retrieved a thick folder from her briefcase, feeling the weight of her own courage as she opened it and began to present findings. Misalignment on team assessments, ignored employee feedback, skewed performance metrics. Each page revealed a narrative that painfully chronicled how power dynamics warped the company's culture and decision-making processes. Would these disclosures solidify her case or lead to more backlash? As she detailed the evidence, a fleck of adrenaline coursed through her veins. She heard the faint rustle of the jurors' notes. Some scribbled down key points while others shared glances that expressed empathy. This surge of visibility and support filled her with determination. Yet she knew that empathy could just as easily dissolve into skepticism if she didn't maintain clarity. Each assertion had to resonate with integrity. The sharp retort she expected from Liam didn't come immediately. Instead, there was a shift in demeanor from the other side. The absence of his smug confidence. He seemed to be grappling with the very narrative he'd constructed, watching her demolish it piece by piece. Yet, alongside this exhilarating turn of events, Sarah felt an inkling of dread. Was there something lurking within her own revelations that could backfire if she wasn't careful? "Ms. Thompson, you paint a vivid picture of a flawed environment," Liam finally interjected, his tone cooler and more calculated. Yet, to attribute these failures to leadership decisions alone overlooks the core issues of individual accountability. Leadership must adapt and grow just as subordinate employees do. If you lack the ability to adjust, why should any of this matter? Each word was a parry aimed to destabilize her grounded foundation. As she meticulously assembled her counter-argument, Sarah wrestled with the truth he implied. Was there something in her own management style she had neglected to examine? Had her fears and her past failures blinded her to the potential for her own growth? "Mr. Baker," she countered, her voice steady but thoughtful, "I don't dispute the need for adaptation. However, leadership also encompasses the responsibility to foster an environment where all employees feel safe to innovate and express dissent without fear of retribution. My previous silencing wasn't just about my adaptability. It buried the voices of those who stood with me." She sensed a crack forming in the armor of his assertions. The underlying question lingered. Could she tackle her own potential shortcomings while navigating the complexities of corporate politics? Could accepting her own failings empower her case rather than undermine it? As the courtroom drama unfolded, there was an undeniable pivot in the air. Sarah felt the weight of her story merging with those of her colleagues, and the clarity of her purpose shone through like a beacon in the murky waters of confrontation. But while she was dissecting the internal struggles that could lead to wider accountability, shadows from her past loomed large, making her wonder how much further she had to dig to uncover the elusive truths hidden within her organization. Just as she mentally coded her thoughts for the next phase, a sudden realization struck her. There might be someone else in the audience who held the key to unraveling her case. A former colleague with insights she had not yet tapped into. Could reaching out to them provide the final piece of the puzzle? Determination surged anew, yet beneath it there was a gnawing sensation. A need to confront the depths of her own professional journey before probing too deeply into others. The moment was ripe for an exploration that transcended the courtroom, reaching back into her own past and forward into potential uncoverings that could revolutionize more than just her own story. Her path was set, and she knew the next step would not only redefine her trajectory, but possibly reshape her understanding of leadership and what it truly meant to wield influence. What murky waters awaited her as she sought that colleague? Would they empower her efforts, or could they unravel the very case she was trying to build? The afternoon sun streamed through the courtroom windows, casting a warm glow that seemed almost incongruous with the charged atmosphere. Sarah felt the heat on her skin, a stark reminder of the intensity of what lay ahead. She had resolved to contact her former colleague, a decision that weighed heavily on her. That individual might hold crucial information, yet reaching out could rekindle memories she had long buried. The internal conflict twisted in her mind. Healing often demands confrontation. The moment the hearing adjourned, Sarah slipped out of the courtroom, her heart racing with anticipation and trepidation. She made her way to a quiet cafe nearby, a place that had once been a sanctuary for brainstorming sessions and candid conversations during happier times. As she settled into a familiar booth, she took a deep breath. This was about more than just her case, it was about rediscovering her voice and courage. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts, pausing at the name that sparked a flicker of recognition and doubt. Allison Grant. They had always shared a somewhat contentious working relationship, often clashing on management styles, yet there was no denying Allison's unwavering commitment to justice and ethical practices. Sarah needed to decide if she would reach out or risk letting past conflicts cloud her judgment. "Push forward," she whispered to herself, and with trembling fingers began typing a message. "Allison, it's Sarah. I hope you're well. I could really use your insights on a few things regarding our previous workplace. Can we meet?" The sending animation bounced across the screen, and she felt both relief and anxiety settle in, not knowing how Allison would respond. Moments later, an answer popped up. "Hi, Sarah. Sounds important. Let's meet. I have a few things to say about the management there." That simple reply felt like a lifeline, yet it also ignited the discomfort of addressing unresolved tensions. What if the truths Allison revealed made her question her own convictions further? With a touch of spontaneity, Sarah agreed to meet at the cafe the next day, allowing her mind to warp towards uncertainty. What if Allison's perspectives challenged her understanding of the company culture? Could she stomach further criticism? Or would it empower her to fortify her argument against Liam? As she left, Sarah noticed how the light bounced off the buildings, illuminating her path. Clarity surged within her. She understood that embarking on this journey meant not only confronting the past, but also acknowledging mistakes and leveraging them for future growth. Meeting Allison would provide her with the tools to scrutinize her own role as a leader. The next day arrived, and as Sarah sat anxiously awaiting Allison's arrival, she reflected on the challenges she had faced thus far. She now understood that authenticity in leadership required vulnerability, admitting faults and learning from them. But the resonating question lingered. How much of her own legacy had been built on the silence she had endured? Allison strode in, exuding a confidence that both intimidated and inspired. The moment they locked eyes, Sarah felt a jolt of recognition. This was the openness she sought, a dialogue that could transform her understanding and better prepare her for the battle ahead. "Sarah," Allison began, her tone serious yet approachable. "I know you've got questions, but are you ready to hear the hard truths? Because truth isn't always comfortable." Determined, Sarah nodded. "I need them. The stakes are too high and I have to embrace whatever comes next. But I also need to know how my actions as a leader shaped the environment we worked in." The exchange was no longer just about the impending trial. It had devolved into an exploration of her own leadership capabilities. As they delved deeper into the conversation, Sarah felt layers of her past unraveling, exposing not only the environment that silenced so many, but her role in maintaining that silence as well. The session with Allison ignited a fire in Sarah, illuminating the path toward her own accountability. She realized the deeper challenge lay not only in winning a court case, but in reconstructing herself into a leader who prioritized transparency and growth. Just as they were about to dive into the specific incidents that could potentially change her case's trajectory, a figure approached them from behind. A sharp intake of breath signaled that the unexpected had just entered the building. Sarah turned, bracing herself for yet another potential upheaval. What new revelations awaited her just when she thought she was unraveling the mystery of her past? Sarah's heart raced as she turned to face the newcomer, her anticipation morphing into a mixture of anxiety and curiosity. A tall figure with a commanding presence stood there, a face she recognized yet hadn't expected to see again. Greg Mulroney, the former district manager whose dismissal had stirred so much controversy. "Sarah, I didn't expect to find you here," Greg said, his deep voice resonating with surprise and apprehension. The weight of history hung in the air, palpable and thick. She sensed that whatever had prompted his arrival was as unexpected for him as it was for her. Allison shot Sarah a quick glance, silently acknowledging the tension that had crept into their discussion. "This is a private conversation," she asserted firmly, an edge of protectiveness threading through her tone. "No, wait," Sarah interjected, a spark of urgency igniting within her. I think I need to hear what he has to say." It was an instinctual decision, a gut feeling that the answers she sought from Allison might also intersect with revelations from Greg. "Fine," Allison sighed, leaning back but retaining her watchful demeanor. "Just remember what we were discussing." "Of course," Sarah reassured her, directing her full attention to Greg. "What brings you here?" He hesitated, weighing his words as though conjuring the courage to share a truth long suppressed. "I didn't just show up to catch up, I came to clear my name. You know, the circumstances around my firing were twisted. I need to explain the truth." Sarah's mind raced. She had spent years grappling with her decision to distance herself from events that now seemed intimately connected. She gestured for him to continue, feeling the urgency of the moment nudge her own resolve. "I was wrongfully dismissed, Sarah," Greg began, his eyes narrowing slightly as he spoke. You know the company always downplayed the toxic culture. They benefited from it. But when I tried to voice the truth, they silenced me. You were in a position to influence change. You have a responsibility to bring this to light. A tight knot formed in her stomach. Greg's words echoed the very sentiments she had grappled with during her time at the firm. I was part of that environment too, Greg, she admitted, her voice steady but wavering with the weight of guilt. I didn't speak out when I should have. I feared retribution. He nodded, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. That fear kept you silent, just like it kept me from fighting back more aggressively. But now you have a voice, and I want to help you make it heard. You need to understand that addressing our shared past could redefine not only your career but the entire company culture. Sarah's thoughts broiled with conflicting emotions. She understood now that authenticity required addressing those very fears that had shackled her for too long. Yet stepping into this new wave of confrontation brought forward the chilling specter of potential fallout. Have you found any evidence? She pressed, anxiety making her words sharper. If there was solid proof behind her doubts, it could change everything. Her case, her understanding of leadership, and possibly the trajectory of the entire company culture moving forward. I have, Greg said, his expression hardening with determination. But I can't disclose anything without ensuring we approach this strategically. I need your support to make it count. The gravity of what he was proposing struck her like a storm. Aligning with Greg meant risking everything she had tried to rebuild after distancing herself from that chapter of her career. Yet, the notion of redefining her own narrative alongside him ignited a spark of excitement. Let's delve into this. What do we need to do? Sarah finally replied, her voice resonating with newfound purpose. She felt the ground beneath her shifting, leaving her both exhilarated and terrified. As they began to strategize, Sarah realized she was standing at the precipice of something monumental. The pursuit of truth was, indeed, a perilous journey, but it was one she was finally prepared to undertake. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the looming stakes were far greater than she had anticipated. Would she be ready to expose the deeper issues at play without losing herself in the process? In that very moment, the past and future collided, and Sarah steeled herself for the next decision that would reshape her trajectory forever. Would she face Liam and the corrupt practices that had spiraled out of control? Or would fear push her back into the shadows once more? As Sarah and Greg laid out a preliminary plan, her mind buzzed with strategies and counter-strategies. Each proposal Greg voiced ignited a flicker of ambition within her, but also heightened her anxiety. Would she be able to support him without tethering herself to the very toxic culture they sought to overturn? First, we need to gather credible documentation, Greg stated, his voice steady and methodical. We should approach trusted colleagues who may have witnessed the environment or received treatment that violated ethical standards. Do you have anyone particular in mind? Sarah asked, her voice steady and assertive, revealing her growing confidence. There are a few people who might still be in contact with me, Greg replied, lingering over possible names. But we must be discreet. The company has eyes everywhere, and any whiff of dissent may result in retribution. A chill ran down Sarah's spine. The reality sunk in that this was not merely about confronting the culture, but maneuvering through a minefield of potential victimization, both for herself and for any allies they enlisted. Yet the urgency to challenge the status quo outweighed her apprehensions. She had long felt the burden of complicity. Now, for the first time in years, she was on the cusp of actualization. Let's set up a secure meeting with anyone you feel can contribute, she said, feeling a surge of resolve. We can frame our approach as discussing project feedback. It'll provide a cover for our true intentions. Greg's gaze softened. He saw something new in Sarah, a spark that had been dormant. That's a smart idea. Cover is crucial. We need a strategy that allows us to pull back if necessary. Yet even as they spoke, doubts curled in the corners of her mind. Was she truly ready to step back into that environment? Could she fight against Liam and the systems he embodied? Finding the answer would not come easily. As shadows deepened in the room, the weight of their conversation morphed into one of shared vulnerability. Greg seemed to sense her turmoil. You're not alone in this, Sarah. What we do now can create a ripple effect. Not just for us, but for others who feel trapped like we did. I've carried part of that weight for too long, she admitted, a heaviness in her voice, clenching her fists as she thought of the individuals still trapped within the walls of their company, silenced by fear. I just want to make it right. Then let's make it right together, Greg urged, determination lacing his tone. But we must address your fears first. We need to solidify your position within the company, build alliances, before going public with any claims. Otherwise, it will feel like standing on sand. It was a stark reminder of the fragility of her professional standing and trust. But as she drew on the small victories of past encounters with colleagues and mentors, she realized she had networked herself into a supportive web in ways she hadn't recognized before. Silence enveloped them momentarily, punctuating the gravity of their ambitions. Sarah breathed deeply, pondering how to embrace the tension between her newfound courage and the years of silence that had defined her. Gathering her thoughts, she prepared to pose a question that would redefine everything. What if we confront Liam directly? Expose the practices he's orchestrated? We could utilize support as leverage. Rushing in may lead to immediate backlash. We have to meticulously map out this terrain, Greg cautioned, his voice low. And lose my opportunity to lead this change in my terms? Sarah shot back, a fire igniting in her chest. Okay, Sarah, Greg relented. Let's develop our evidence and build a timeline of events before we make any public moves. Weeks of preparation could lie ahead, but as they outlined their next steps, one thought pricked at the edges of her mind. Would Liam anticipate their inquiries and try to discredit them before they even began? Sarah felt invigorated yet tense, the stakes rising with each passing moment. She refused to retreat into silence, knowing she stood on the brink of making a choice, one that could lead to redemption or disaster. So, what's next? She asked, her ambition undeterred. We dig deeper, Greg replied, a fierce light edging back into his eyes. As they continued to flesh out the plan, Sarah understood that the path to empowerment would not be without conflict. Little did she know that the danger would come sooner than expected. Would she be ready to confront the confrontation waiting in the shadows? The weeks rolled by, marked by intense planning and a concerted effort to amass evidence. As Sarah and Greg gathered documents and testimonials from trusted colleagues, the clarity of their mission crystallized. This was about more than just her own reinstatement. This was a chance to catalyze real change within a dysfunctional corporate landscape. In team meetings where whispers of corporate politics hung thick in the air, she now found her voice buoyed by quiet interpretations and real data. Each success felt like a layer of armor building around her. Employee accounts echoed in her mind, stories of frustrations that had kept them silent for years, tales woven into the very fabric of the company culture, reinforcing her own resolve. Finally, the day arrived when she felt ready to confront Liam once and for all. Sitting in a conference room adorned with sterile corporate decor, the air felt electric with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Sarah could see the faint outlines of her colleagues through the glass wall, their expressions a mix of curiosity and encouragement. As Liam strode in, confidence oozing from his every pore, Sarah steeled herself. This meeting would not merely revolve around past grievances, but would serve as the foundation for a monumental shift in the company. She would not fall prey to intimidation. She had progressed too far for that. Thank you everyone for coming. I believe it's important we address certain culture issues affecting our work environment, she began, her voice steady and calm, traits she had meticulously polished over weeks of preparation. Liam adjusted his posture, the subtle hint of defensiveness creeping in as she continued. For too long, many of us have navigated this landscape of silence, angered by the injustices we've faced but feeling that fear has won. But it's time to confront this reality. If we hope to foster real trust and collaboration, we must discuss accountability. He flicked a dismissive glance her way, but she pressed on, drawing confidence from her documentation and support network. As you can see, the testimonials outlined here demonstrate that the lack of a transparent culture has stifled the voice of innovation and demoralized hardworking employees. A palpable shift settled in the room. The former bravado Liam wore dimmed, replaced by an expression of uncertainty. Sarah felt the air around her thrum with electricity. More than a corporate meeting, it felt like the beginning of a revolution. No longer were they simply sitting in uncomfortable chairs separated by tables and unnecessary hierarchies. Today, they were part of a united front. Leadership is about enabling others to thrive, she declared, her voice rising with conviction. It's about ensuring that every dissenting opinion is not just tolerated but valued, and every employee feels safe to express their ideas. Each word ignited empathy in the room. She could see heads nodding, an acknowledgement of a shared truth. But the confrontation escalated. Liam straightened, channeling his patronizing demeanor to claw back at her. Most of this is simply deflecting responsibility, Sarah. It's about individual accountability. Accountability is a two-way street, Liam, she shot back, adrenaline surging through her. You've fostered an environment that penalizes honesty while rewarding sycophants. It's not your leadership that should be shielding. It's your grasp on a failing culture that has much further to be addressed. The energy shifted palpably as murmurs swept through the room. She had confronted him not as a mere victim, but as a leader advocating for a transformative approach in corporate governance. Enough! Liam's temper flared, his facade of control cracking. You think you're the first to challenge the status quo? I've been in this industry longer than you've been alive. Perhaps that's the problem, Liam, Sarah shot back defiantly, eyes glaring with resolve. A stagnant mind can't engage in innovation. This company craves evolution, yet we're being stymied by outdated methods of leadership. We all deserve better than your vision. Every employee deserves better. Liam faltered, caught off guard by the unified voice that had emerged from her fight for justice. Sarah felt a rush of empowerment. She wasn't merely clinging to survival anymore, but standing at the forefront of change. The environment had shifted, not just in this room but within her. A raw transformation fueled by undeniable confidence. In the days following that pivotal moment, Sarah reveled in her newfound capability. She meticulously crafted a proposal focused on redefining company values rooted in empowerment and accountability, presenting it to senior leadership with a confidence that left them attentive and open to discussion. On the morning of a crucial meeting, she stood before an assembly of executives, the very people who had once deemed her a casualty of corporate politics. Her voice echoed firmly as she articulated the urgency to initiate comprehensive company-wide training on ethical leadership and conflict resolution. When she finished, the applause that resonated through the room felt like an affirmation of her journey. I am not just here to reclaim my position, she announced, addressing the murmurs from colleagues. I stand here to ignite a movement toward change, a culture where integrity guides our actions, not fear. As she exited that meeting, an overwhelming warmth unfurled within her, a sense of fulfillment that emerged not merely from recognition of her hard work, but as a marker defining her entire existence. She had conquered her fears, harnessed her voice, and positioned herself as a crystal-clear asset to the organization. More importantly, Sarah had demonstrated that individual integrity could fuel transformation, one soul at a time. Turning a corner, Sarah smiled as she recalled the lives changed. Rather than being boxed into a single narrative, she had unwrapped layers of complexity and found empowerment in both her vulnerability and strength. As the sun dipped below the horizon that evening, casting hues of gold and crimson across the sky, Sarah felt the winds of change swirling around her. It wasn't merely about the courtroom victory or a title regained. It was about a legacy forged from resilience, marked by authentic relationships born from integrity, and cemented with a commitment to pave the way for future generations. This was her moment, and she would embrace it fiercely. No hesitation, no looking back. Now, if you followed Sarah's inspiring journey, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support the narratives that uplift. Comment your reactions and thoughts about Sarah's transformative journey, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. True fans of overcoming adversity understand the importance of supporting this channel through these actions.